So have you ever had your life fall apart where, everything, yes, we can both say yes to that situation. Our lives have fallen apart. But the whole thing is, life can sometimes fall apart and then come back together. But there's also too many times when one thing hits another and you just constantly, it's like you're rolling down a hill. The hardest part about that, it's getting up and moving forward and getting yourself on the right track, because that is the secret to life. Welcome to Let's Get Real. So today we're going to be talking just about that. And today I want to tell you that you're in the right place. So stay tuned. We're going to have great conversation. And for those who don't know me yet, my name is Glenda Kroll. I am here to empower you and to move you forward no matter what.
Ooh, that's powerful, Glenda. I like that. And I am Nicole Harvick, and I am an intuitive energy healer. And I'm here to find the little spots in your body that are trauma and holding you back. And, Glenda, when I was writing, this bio and introduction, I'm like, okay, yeah. Just like you said, we've all been knocked down a bit, a time or two, but we get up. And I think that's the key, is not laying down and wallowing in it. So our guest today is an author, a speaker, and a coach. And some of these descriptions I absolutely love. He's a life extension trainer. He's an emotional baggage handler, and his experience failing a lot, which
I got you.
Yeah, exactly. After cancer, addiction, loss of marriage, and going through the year of collapse, he started over again at age 60. So I cannot wait to hear from this gentleman. Welcome to our stage, Dallascollis.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. How are you today?
Wonderful to be here.
Good. You're going to uplift us, give us all kinds of ideas, and help people start over.
Well, I love Glenda's opening saying, have you ever had life collapse or fall apart? I instantly thought, has anyone not had life collapse or fall apart?
Well,
I want to meet them.
Yes, but it depends on the level, right? Like, what I have had everything fallen apart in my life and then some. But, I've met a lot of people where their life has collapsed. But the biggest problem is they stay down.
But I think the other side of that is a tiny thing can destroy someone, a huge thing, and it doesn't faze another person. So we're all so different. It's like a spectrum of how we accept things in our life.
Absolutely. And Glenda and I talk about this all the time. How many times have we reinvented ourselves? And I'm sure the same with you. And you know what? Now it's kind of like becoming a challenge. Who do I want to be next?
And that's the whole thing. You can become who you want to become. So Dallas, thank you very much for joining us today. And we look forward first of all, for you to share your story so people understand where you're actually coming from. Because, people often say their life is falling apart or all the things are terrible. And then when you listen to them, you kind of giggle to yourself because, what? Like, I think to myself, wow, I wish I had that luxury that those little things just happened to me, but, when we were talking, we're not talking about little things that have happened. So please share with us your story. Let's bring you from the point where you were down and, where did things go?
Well, the beginning is how you get to down.
Yeah.
And for me, that's called the story. It's called the story mind. When we're born, we have no story. We have no ego. We have no self-conception. We're just a being. And then we start getting layers of story put on top of us. Our name, what we act like, how we behave, how we're told to behave. All the things that people say about us. And this builds a story that we end up identifying as. That becomes who we believe we are. And we tend to live our lives based on that story. This is why childhood trauma is so dramatic, because it lays this piece of a story that is very hard to get rid of. It becomes a building block of who you believe you are. So when I got out of my youth, I knew I was unintelligent, unworthy, a failure, a loser.
Wow.
I wouldn't measure up because that's what I'd gone through. That's what I'd been shown in school, by church members, by everything I interacted with. I came out as the loser. So this created a person who knew that's who they were.
But were people telling you that's who you were?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you were believing on what you were being told.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
This is how we build our stories.
Right.
We don't create them as much as they are imposed on us. We then start to believe they're true. Then we act them out in life. I started probably 9 businesses, failed at all of them because I fail. That's the reason I fail. I know I fail. Yeah. And my ego would show up every time and go, that's just like you. You screwed up, to reinforce who you are. That's that voice in our head. So if I go through 50 years of that kind of life, carrying the trauma and all that pain from childhood, the reasons why I'm no good, it boils over to a point of a 25-year marriage that's full of alcohol, drugs, violence, terrible abuse to one another, and raising children in that. Just a horrible pain that I'm going to carry for the rest of my life. But it doesn't any longer have to have the impact it had on me. And I got lucky. A lot of people don't get lucky. 2020, January 1st, Canada Day. I live in Canada. One of my favorite days of the year. I woke up that morning with cancer.
Oh,
greatest day of my life. Everything began to move from there. In that 1 year, 12 months to the day, 2021, July 1st, Canada Day, I woke up in a 1-bedroom basement apartment in my sister's house in a different town, broke, bankrupt, an alcoholic, and suicidal. And why was that year the greatest year of my life? Because my marriage fell apart and I lost it. I lost my house. I lost my business. In many ways, I lost my family. And I ended up, as I say, that alcoholic, alone, and suicidal. If that hadn't happened, I would still be that person. Nothing would have disrupted this slow train wreck creeping along, as many people do, to the end of their life. They just learn to cope and carry on. And that change is so fundamental when it can wake you up. We sleepwalk through our lives. They become habits and practices, and we do them almost unconsciously, like robotic behavior. And we wake up one morning and it happens to all of us. Oh, where'd the time go?
Yeah.
It's the same mentality. You sit at a computer screen and get to work, and 3 hours go by and you go, whoa, how'd that happen? I just sat down. Some people wake up at 80 years old and go, whoa, how did that happen?
Yeah.
It's no different. It's this funny thing our mind will do because we're not really awake. We're not really present in our life in the moment. Now, we say our biggest problem is imagination about our future and memory of our past. And we tend to live in those two places all the time. And we forget that life is happening right where we are. So that was the beginning of my journey back, was to decide, okay, I really don't want to die. Something says I've got to do something. And I don't want to make it a big spiritual sort of thing, but something woke me up and said, you have to find a way forward. The smallest step you can take is in doing the right thing, you know?
So what did you find to be the right thing? What was first of all, the thing that just sort of knocked you over and said, you can't keep going down this hill. You can't keep believing on what everybody's telling you?
Well, you know, when I talk to people about this, a lot of people will say, cancer alone could have ruined your life. Alcohol alone could have ruined your life. Losing your marriage could have ruined your life. Any one of the things that happened could have. I think I got lucky that 5 things happened at once. There was no time to sit down and go, oh, poor me. I'm broken. I'm hurt. There was no time for that. It was so many things. It was such an overload that the slap in the face was, wow, if you survive this, what's going to take you out? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that really hit me that I can't be hurt. Nothing bad is ever going to happen. Once you've gone through that wreckage, what could be done? Who's going to do anything? What circumstance in my life is going to do anything if that didn't do it? That is an incredibly freeing thought. I didn't create that thought. It just happened. But I think it happened out of that suffering. Because great suffering can open your eyes.
Oh, yeah.
I think we suffer slowly, and so we can put up with it for years. But if something gets strong enough, if you have enough pain, it does that thing of just saying, holy crap, I can see what's going on here all of a sudden. I lived yesterday for almost 60 years. Everything about my life was my memory of what's come before. And that's where I live. Everything that was wrong with me, everything I did wrong, everything people did wrong to me. I blamed the world and people around me for all my problems because I couldn't take responsibility.
Yeah.
It wasn't really me. It was this past, this yesterday, these people hurting me. Everything was somehow outside of me. And so one day I heard a guy on a podcast, and all he said was, show me yesterday. Absolutely blew my mind. Well, show me yesterday. Well, hang on. Where is yesterday? Hold it. It doesn't exist. I can't go grab it. I can't go into the closet and pull it out like a suit jacket and put it on and say, oh, now I'm in yesterday. So does it really exist? Well, if my brain starts thinking it might not exist, my whole existence was yesterday. If it's not true, that means I don't have to believe it's true. If I don't have to believe it, I can create whatever I want. For me, that was a massive revelation.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't have to believe what I've been told is me. I am not who I believed I was. Well, all of a sudden then how could I have been traumatized? How could anyone have hurt me? No one could. I had to accept the belief that it hurt me and carry that belief and let it control me. Therefore, I couldn't be awake today. I had to always be living there. This was just fabulous to suddenly go, that's the boom. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I mean, I get to be me. I can find out who I am. I can do what I want. That never struck me before because I was something. I couldn't change who I was. To believe there isn't something you are. You are only right here today. I spent as many years in the past as I did in the future. I lived with the Gunner Monster. And the Gunner Monster was my best friend. And I was the Gunner Monster king. Tomorrow, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna start a new diet. I'm gonna start a business. I'm gonna be successful. I'm gonna be different. I was gonna king. I would tell them for years, well, yeah, I know I'm a mess, but I'm gonna. That's living in the future. The Gunner Monster. And all that thing does is create procrastination. Because your past is saying, you can't really change anything. And you get scared. And fear just holds people bump.
It's exactly it. It paralyzes them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to be strong. I'm going to fight. And the other side's going, no, you're not. You can't do it.
But
so you sit still.
It's also the same time of living with the shouldas, with the
Yeah.
shoulda monsters. When we should have
Regrets.
your whole life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of what you should have done, but you didn't do. And then
Exactly.
what you're going to possibly do, but you never do it. So you're sitting in the middle of a limbo in your life and never actually make anything because you should have and you would and you're gonna put you into no man's land.
Yeah. The only time I had that real regret was after I woke up. Because my instant regret was, why didn't I wake up 50 years ago?
I think we all say that.
Easy,
Yeah.
it was this easy. When it happens, it's so easy to see everything clearly because you're not standing in those two worlds of yesterday and tomorrow. And once you're not standing there, you realize how foolish they are. I laugh now. I laugh out loud every time I do something silly. I was just thinking this morning, oh yeah, and I got to go to the bank. Oh, what if there's a lineup at the bank? Oh, I hate that lineup. I don't want to go to the bank right now. All of a sudden, I was doing it. I was futurizing a silly little thing. And I'd start laughing and going, wow, if you can catch yourself in these thought patterns, it destroys them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Negative spirals, or you get into a little thought and it just spirals down and down and everything becomes negative. And you just sit there and stew in it. All of a sudden, you're in a bad mood. But if you can catch the thought in the beginning and go, oh, that's funny. Why am I thinking that? Actually talk to your thought. It goes away. Because it has no place to be because you're aware of it and how it isn't you. So I now realize my thoughts are not me. What I do with those thoughts are me. How I react to those thoughts. Because normally thoughts come into our head and we just go with it. We don't really react. We follow them. Our habits, our routines, all these behaviors are just following. You have to be able to catch the thought and say, hold it a second. Is that really what I want to do? Have the conversation in your head. This makes you sane, not insane. You see the guy on the street yakking to himself out loud. Like, oh, crazy person. Does anyone not do that same thing in their head? Of course, we'd be insane if we didn't. So that conversation can be made the conversation that keeps you awake and keeps you moving in the direction you want to go, not the direction your memory tells you you should go.
Yeah.
I think that's really the key to it all is allowing yourself to think about it all, but to really put yourself into into perspective of really, because after a while you've lived so long and that, are you going to keep going over and like it's like that snowball, right, that keeps growing? Are you going to keep going on and but you never get out of it because you're on that hamster wheel,
right?
Because you don't do anything different.
Yeah.
So if you can do something different, and maybe it was because you got hit by so many things that it was actually like somebody was shaking you awake.
That's
so
what I call that.
All of a sudden you're now thinking things in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I had to do was shrink everything. I say everything big is small.
Okay.
We think life is big. I'm going to live 80 years, let's say. Okay. And I would go through this exercise. So take 20 years off because those are your young years before you really start doing your independent life. Take 15 years off because that's retirement. You finished your productive life. So that lives you what? 45 years of a working life. That sort of thing. But 13 years of that is spent sleeping. 5 years of it is spent eating food. 8 years of it is the car, the toilet, the TV, time sitting, letting your body function. So you're down to 20 years of actually being at work. And any work psychologist will tell you that 25 to 30% of your time at work is not spent working. It's socializing, it's coffee break, it's the water cooler chatter, it's all this kind of stuff. So you end up, you have 15 years you actually work. The actual hours you put in is about 15 years of a big life. And yet we make this huge story around all this stuff. So if you can start to shrink your life and go, it's not as complex as I thought it was. Maybe it's a little more simple. And for me, then I went to, but if I'm awake only right here, right now, not tomorrow, not yesterday, then I'm really only alive for 24-hour day, one day. And 8 hours I'm sleeping. So I've got 16 hours. And this aligned with Alcoholics Anonymous. One day at a time is a mantra of just doing it for one day. And when you wake up tomorrow, just do it again. All you have to do is one day. So if I could take my whole life and say, my life is 16 hours long. Am I telling myself I can't eat well for 16 hours? I can't make sure I get some exercise in 16 hours? I can't focus on some good productive work inside of that 16 hours? I can't look after myself and show my love for others in that 16 hours? I can do everything in 16 hours because it turns out your whole life is there. So for me, if I get my mentality down to that 16 hours, every day is fabulous because I can do anything for 16 hours. Life is easy now. I have no worries. None. People go, well, it's impossible. You've got to worry about something. I don't, because there's nothing to worry about. All the things we think are so horrific in life or happen to us or, we think might happen tomorrow, what might go wrong. Look back. It has meant almost nothing to you when you look back. They've been little events. They can have good meaning you can take forward, as I take from this year of life collapse. For me, that's just a fabulous memory of a couple of things. One, what you can take and keep moving forward, and what you can take from it as a strength that nothing will ever hurt you, that you have no problems in life at all. You only have situations you deal with or you don't deal with, but none of them are problems until your mind starts spiraling negatively about the situation and creates a problem. And that means getting stressed. There's no stress in a life situation until you label it good or bad or a difficulty, a problem. That's all up to you, as long as you stay awake and realize what's happening in this little 3.5-pound lump of goo up here. I know it sounds simple. It's not simple. I don't want to make it sound too easy.
But I'm even going to bring you down even more. Now, you look at it as, 16 hours. I've gone through times in my life where I live instead of, day by day. I have actually gone through where I live minute by minute.
Absolutely.
And when times are tough, you've got to break it down to stop worrying about the next minute. You got to live the minute that you're in. And that means allowing your body to breathe, to just make it through that time. Because sometimes looking at it from one day just to the end of the day is sometimes too overpowering.
When I first started trying to get my health back, I invented in my head 1 minute fitness.
Yeah.
And every hour, my phone an alarm would go off. And for 1 minute, I would do push-ups. And the next hour it would go off. And for 1 minute, I'd do sit-ups. I would do this every day, just 1 minute. And I thought, boy, 1 minute of fitness is easy. Well, I'll tell you, after about 8 hours of 1 minute apiece, you'll be surprised how hard it is. 1 minute. So I began doing that exactly what you're saying, Glenda. I started taking minute bites of everything.
And that can actually change your life for the better.
I'm sitting watching a video and a thought comes, I'm hungry. I get up and would walk to the fridge, and on my fridge I had a sticky note. It said, think for 1 minute about what you're going to put in your mouth. That's all. Well, change my diet because I didn't eat automatically. I thought about what I was going to do, and that changes everything. So 1-minute bites can change your life. They
Wow.
sounds trite, like you see on YouTube or online or something, buy my program, 1 minute will change your life. But it really can if you have the discipline to do this. For me, it was sticky notes all over the place reminding me, just take a moment, think for a second, then do the thing.
And you can imagine how that will change when you're involved with people and somebody reacts to you in a negative way or a bad way. If you could stop for 1 minute and actually think before you talk, everything can actually change from that.
Absolutely.
Don't react.
Right.
Reaction is not your friend.
I agree.
Reaction is the biggest problem. Just look at, if you've ever had a teenager.
Oh yeah,
watch them react like it's a mountain, every molehill.
That's true.
Parents,
I always taught mine to respond. Don't just react. Think about it for even a second before you start spitting out, your venom.
Yeah.
Right.
And the reality is, it's all practice. It's all discipline. But you've been practicing and being disciplined at who you've been for all the years you've been that person. So the change is no different. You simply practice. And all those one minute bites pretty quickly become habits and routines, and you don't have to consciously go, stop, look at the sticky note. It just becomes automatic that you give yourself a second to breathe and think.
But sometimes what happens in our life is things move on too fast. We jump into things. We start to create new habits, which not are always good habits. So then we need to pull ourselves back, have that moment to reflect, the moment, the minute, the moment, whatever you want to say, to reflect of what has gone on during that time, so that you can, while you reflect, then you know what you can do or how to change, because that moment of thinking and reflecting can change everything, to start a new habit or to respond to somebody that's doing something or saying something that actually could allow you to say something you might regret later on.
Absolutely. Living at the speed of life is not easy because it tends to put you to sleep. It's so quick, it's actually a bit of work to keep yourself involved and awake. So the speed of life tends to go, just flow, man. Just go with it. Don't think, follow the crowd, do what's happening, wear the latest fashion, just blend and go. And that's a dangerous thing. It's easy. And, this comfort and convenience we've built into the world today puts people to sleep. It makes us more fragile to the difficult moments because we're not used to stepping out of ourselves, examining ourselves now and then, resetting, rethinking where we're going. And this comfort and convenience makes fragility. And we end up with a culture that's becoming afraid of any examination of the individual, as if it was almost an attack, an affront. Something is against you, when you need to be against yourself in some moments. To look at yourself from the outside and go, are you really doing it? Are you going the right way? Are you really doing what you want? And not be afraid to criticize yourself. That's a huge skill to get.
Yet there's also a side to that where you have to be careful, because we tend to over criticize ourselves, and then we get onto that whole other area where we end up having the self-hate and the self-loathe, and we can't do that to ourselves. So we need to, and I've said this before, and I'll always say it again, that we living balanced is something that we don't really do.
Mm-hmm.
We all want to live in that world where we're balanced, that balance of work and free time and family and all this. But, sorry to say this, but that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Life is not going to be balanced.
That's right.
Right. And I also don't like the word criticize. That has such a negative connotation. I like acknowledge, to look at myself and acknowledge that, you know what, maybe you are the problem. You know, maybe you did say something you shouldn't. Maybe you need to apologize. So, and I've acknowledged a lot of my mistakes, but
Yeah,
I haven't
I call it just being
criticized.
radically
Yeah.
responsible.
Okay. Yeah.
You know,
I like
being
that.
radically responsible for everything that happens with you is yours to own.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I self-criticize myself, the only way you can do that is from the past, is from memory. It's impossible in the present, really, because we're just a being. There's nothing to criticize. I have no one to compare myself to. I'm not better than someone. I'm not worse than someone. I can only be who I am. So anything that I say is wrong comes from my past and a belief that something was wrong.
But
Nothing's wrong.
People, but here's the thing. Many people do not, bless you, many people do not believe that they're wrong. They live in the ego. So they live through that, and that other people are wrong when merely they're just saying maybe what's on their heart or in their head. And so it's the criticism of what we do to ourselves sometimes has to be the fact of perspective and learning to look at yourself, but with a humbling, more on a humbling level.
Yeah, that's that self-acceptance. People online are really big today on love yourself, which I find a little, let's maybe not get into it, but it's self-acceptance. Accept yourself. There's no reason to beat yourself up because you are who you are, right? So the more you can accept yourself, the easier it is to go where you want to go. The less is holding you back or holding you down, because those things are not real. They are imagined. They are believed. Acceptance opens the door. That's what, gratitude and grateful attitude comes from. You accept, this is where I live, this is what I have, this is who I am. If I can accept this and then be grateful that I've got it, the world's wide open. Because you're not accepting the stuff from the outside that will beat you up.
And my take on that is I do believe in self-love. I teach that. To me, that's one of the most important things, because if you do love yourself, you can look at yourself with different kind of eyes and then accept yourself. But love has a vibration of 500. And so that raises your vibration just within yourself. If you do have that self-love, then there is respect, then there is acknowledgement, then everything else comes into play very easily. And you also love people differently on another level when you love yourself, because you have kind of stepped into a fifth dimensional existence, and you're not mired in that third anymore, which, that's a very egotistical area. Self-love, you accept, you don't judge, you don't criticize, you don't do any of that stuff, because you realize everyone has issues. And so do you, or you have had. And therefore, for me, that has always taken me to a higher level of be able to look with my real eyes at a situation and know that, whatever I choose to do, it's mine to accept, and what other people think doesn't matter.
So here's a little twist for you, Nicole, the way I see it. I don't think I can love myself because I am love. Love is not something you do. You are love.
I believe that too. Yeah.
When you open up, when you accept yourself, when you accept this life at this time, in this moment, without all this baggage of yesterday and tomorrow, you are, in the essence, a being that is love. And when you open that up, people get it. Like you just said about frequency, people automatically go, oh, they connect with you. You connect with them, because you start seeing this is who we really are. We have simply covered it up and made it a world where there's full of problems and issues and struggle and fight and to the point of wars, because we've covered who we really are, just this loving being. So that's the difference of,
That's
it's
how
not
you
something
see
I
it,
have
yeah.
to do for myself. It's something I have to let out. It's
Interesting.
already there.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
Just a little
listen,
twist, but it's really very much the same thing in a way.
you know, I believe the most important thing that you're putting out of acceptance and kindness and understanding, and that really is part of love. It's when you start to put others down. This is my biggest thing, is when people find their own happiness by watching if they put others down, and when we start watching as up, that they're only talking is by putting others down is what brings them up, then we're dealing in a world where you're spiraling down. So
Yeah.
you're only looking at the bitter side of life instead of the beautiful side of life. And I would rather see and have more compassion and understanding and watch and help somebody to, rather give them a rose than a rock.
And that's a great moment where the door can open, is you see someone who talks negatively about others to make themselves feel better. I instantly go, oh, that poor person, they must be in terrible pain to be trying to get some comfort by hurting someone else. So I instantly think they're the one who's being hurt, not the person taking the abuse from them. They're the ones who are in terrible pain. This is the basis to all addiction.
Sure.
Addiction is just, we're in so much pain, we find something that takes it away temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
The Band-Aid, the medication, the drink, sex, pornography, whatever it is. Some people get it from working out.
Sure.
We get addicted to something that alters a mood because that feeling of that mood is pain. So whenever I see it in someone else, I instantly realize they're not trying to hurt anybody. They're expressing their pain and they don't know how to deal with it. So they think, if you're worse than me, maybe I'm not so bad. That could make me feel better, right? I'm above you. That's why you get tyrannical bosses at work. They're dealing with a pain. And so they think if they can be above and slam you with authority and rules, they'll feel better somehow. And we all know that at the end of the day, they end up feeling worse than anyone.
True. Yeah. Some of them.
But
Yeah,
I
well, yeah.
Narcissists excluded.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
very true. And I've watched for years as seeing the evil side of people, how they've brought others down.
Yeah.
And it actually turns around, and it takes a while for it to bite them in the ass, but in the meanwhile that they've hurt other people and have brought them into another level, which is a very sad situation. Not everybody is able to see that pain, of somebody being able to to be able to pull it away from yourself when you see somebody attacking. Sometimes many people aren't strong enough to do that.
Yeah, and that's the other side. If you're the one being attacked, to have the conscious awareness to know it's really not about you.
Right.
To be able to reflect that back in your own mind and realize, oh, they're the one with the problem. So I don't have to be brought down. And that's that non-acceptance of what comes from the outside, and that acceptance that you're okay on the inside and they can't hurt you.
Right. And I think the biggest thing is learning in life of stepping away from those who are doing that. And, so many times you see even in relationships where that happens.
Yes.
So, it's really important if you're in a relationship, and you mentioned at one point that your relationship you lost as well through all this. But sometimes in a relationship, if it's, if one is always pulling the other one down in a verbal or physical way, then you must step away from that, because we all have to do what we need to do to build our own selves up. And we can't allow ourselves to be knocked down all the time.
Yeah, well, I know I'm an example of that wreckage. I mean, I would tell people about my marriage and they would go, "Why would you stay? What were you thinking?" Well, I was thinking, this is what it is. You know, people say I had 6 brothers and sisters. What's it like coming from a big family? I don't know. It's the only family I know. How would I know it's something different? You came from 2. I don't know what that's like, and you don't know what mine's like, but I don't even know. So when I'm in a marriage, it's a wreck. I can't step outside. I'm in it. It just is what it is. The devil you know. The pain you put up with, and that pain becomes your normalcy. That's what you're used to. And so why would I change it? It's scarier to walk away because I have no idea what that's going to be like. For years, I would say, we own a house together. Our bank accounts are together. We have a business together. Our cars are in our names. How could I possibly leave? We are one in this violent, horrible movie. But all these little externalities that twined it together were stronger to me, in my mind. So when I hear people go, "You're in a terrible marriage," and someone else says, "Oh, you just have to leave," I think that's just the silliest thing. Oh, yeah, it's so easy. Just leave. Oh, what's the big deal? It's one of the hardest things in the world. It's like the alcohol addiction. Just quit drinking. Oh, sure. It's so easy. All these things become us because we accept them, because we take ownership. And once you've done that mentally, it's your truth. It's really hard to break your truth.
It's true. And it's scared to make a change. You know, it's, you know, the devil you know is better.
A lot of fear.
Than you don't know.
Absolutely.
You know, pulling out of a relationship, knowing what you're going to expect because you've been in it is somewhat easier than step outside and have to encounter the unforeseen and the unknown.
Yeah. That's what's crazy about your brain too, because when you do get out of it, when you look back, you go, that was actually easy to leave. You know, when the moment happened and you look at it, you go, all I did was do it. You know, like you're at the edge of the cliff, scared to death. As soon as you step off, it's all over. It's finished. And you look at that and go, that's all I had to do was take that step. But in the moment of that step, it's impossible.
So how has your life changed now?
Well, I think I expressed it earlier when I said I have no worries, I have no fears, and I don't have a problem ever. Ever. Nothing ever comes at me and says, this will be hard. One of the things I did was letting go of the future, was letting go of goals in a sense of looking at a goal and working for the goal. I can set a goal, but I no longer work for the goal. I work in the moment. Just take the step that's beneficial to me and others in a real loving way and keep doing it over and over, one little step at a time. That's all I do. The goal takes care of itself.
Right. So but you're following in the direction of the goal.
Certainly. We all have vision of where we would like to go to. But the act of going there is being here. And this is the difference. A lot of people live in the going there. An athlete has a ball thrown toward them. All they have to do is catch the ball. An athlete has a ball thrown toward them, and they're thinking about the next step after they catch the ball, and they drop the ball. They were thinking of the goal before the process. Does that make sense? When you see an athlete playing tennis, and they're just hitting every shot effortlessly, and they're just flying through their game, we call it a state of flow. They're not thinking about the goal, about winning. They're practicing their craft. They're in flow of doing right there and then. Whenever we are, it's the best work we ever do. It is those moments when 3 hours goes by when you sat down to do a job and you go, wow, it seemed like 10 minutes. You were in flow. You weren't thinking about yesterday or tomorrow. You were in your craft, following your practice. That's what I learned from all of this, was just to be here, do the best you can. Yes, have that vision of the future. Wouldn't that be nice? But I don't focus on it. I focus on the work that I know will make my day better. And the outcome will always be good. And it is. Because what else could it be? It's only when we input pain and frustration that we get pain and frustration.
It's true.
If you're not putting it in, it doesn't come at you. Yes, things won't always go perfectly. Yes, you won't always succeed. But they don't matter. You know, failing is the greatest thing in the world. Oh, that didn't work. Cool. What did I learn from that? Okay, let's go again.
Well,
There's no hurt in it.
No, but that's the secret tool, is if you can look at something that doesn't work, of saying, okay, this isn't working, what way can I tweak it so that it possibly could work for me? But it's having that type of a mindset to be able to do that really is part of the
And
key.
that's taking that future thought out of it. What if it doesn't work? As soon as you've said that, you're in trouble. Because you've set in motion the thought it might not work. So you've created pain and fear just by saying that. So if you simply say, the outcome doesn't matter. I have no control over tomorrow. I can't determine anything about the future. It's just going to happen. So let go of it. Just do what you have control over, yourself, right here, right now, and everything else will take care of itself. Simple? It is simple. Is it easy to do? Nope. Takes lots of practice, lots of paying attention, lots of discipline. All those things that we all know we should be doing are hard to do because they mean staying awake.
So, you know, believe it or not, it just seems like today has gone by very quickly, and I love it. And it's, you know, so before we go, I want you to share something that, you know, some of the biggest takeaway, because you went through a whole time in your life where everything was so difficult, when things were so hard, you know, when life was always about addiction to this and that and all the rest, and then your life turned, because obviously your mindset and your whole frame of thinking also changed during that time. So give us a couple of golden nuggets that if somebody is living their life where they are falling over themselves in negativity and all the rest, what can they do to start allowing themselves to start changing?
Know without knowing.
Explain that.
Don't know that you know about you or life. Work seriously, but don't take it seriously. There is nothing that's very important in life. If you just work seriously at being a good person, for instance, everything else is not important. Everything else is the noise, the politics, the economy. All these things we're told are so important. The price of gas went up. So what's it really mean to your life? Nothing. It really doesn't mean anything. We're still going to get up in the morning. We're still going to eat. We're still going to work. Nothing's really going to change. So don't take it so seriously. Work seriously, but don't take it seriously. Enjoy this ride. Just enjoy life, because it is a thing to enjoy. It's beautiful. Go for a walk in a forest and tell me life isn't beautiful. It's impossible, because it connects us just to being, just to life, just to our life energy, to that love, Nicole. It just connects us to it. That's all there is. We think it's all this other stuff. We've been fooled by our own mind to believe all this important, serious matters control everything about our life, and it's not in the end. It's that old story. The man on his deathbed didn't say, "I wish I spent more time in the office." That's the reality. These things are true. These little sayings, we've all heard them throughout our life. The reality is they are the truth. And for some reason, we haven't taken them seriously enough. And that's the work seriously, but don't take it seriously. That's the knowing and not knowing. To live in imbalance is the balance. To allow the flow, the ebb and flow of life and all the things around you is the balance. Acceptance. These are the nuggets. They're all life is in the end.
And when we learn to accept that, we learn to live a much healthier, happier life.
Absolutely. Peace,
Amen.
Stillness, calmness. That's where it's at.
So true. Well, I want to thank you, Dallas, for joining us today.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And it's really important that we learned, if we could just change our lives for one moment at a time, for one thought at a time.
Just a little baby step.
That's right. Everything.
Just a baby step. Don't make it a big deal.
Well, and I thank you for that, because we all need to hear that. It's a really good reminder that we all can learn that we can change ourselves. We can change our world around us with one little baby step at a time. We don't need to have huge jumps and leaps to make changes.
And I want to thank you too for having a podcast. I know it is not easy to do, and to do it every week and put this out. I really admire and appreciate the two of you for doing that, because you're sharing messages that, I'm not special. I don't have anything special here.
Hello,
we all do, and we all need to share it.
Okay, yes, and I appreciate that, but we are all special, and that's my message, because it's really the most important thing. If we can love ourselves a little bit more, maybe that we would have more love out there. So we
Let it out.
Learn that we all are special in our own ways, and we all have something. But we never end any of our podcasts without our dear Nicole, who always comes back to share something with us.
Well, I've loved this conversation today. I'm not going to say that I agreed with everything, but that's okay, because we all have, like you talk about us being special and unique, we all have different ways about us. And I love to see people's ways. I appreciate hearing them talk about it. I think one of the most important things that was said today, at least for me, because I learned this, when I was going through my divorce, my anguish and my pain, is, and it, the 4 Agreements says it, Glenda, this too, is take nothing personally. It's never about you. If someone is projecting upon you, that is their problem, not yours. And too many people don't understand that. And they just absorb everything a person says, and then they stuff it down. And guess what? That becomes trauma. And so when you can understand that only you guide you, you are the one to worry about inside and out, not someone else spewing negativities and hate. So my thing today is take nothing personally. You don't have to cast it back of them. You take it and you just toss it aside. It's not yours to keep.
Yes, ma'am. I like it.
I love it.
Thank you.
Beautiful message. So if you're watching this and you've been holding things in and taking what other people are throwing at you, that's their problem. It's not yours. Just like Nicole said, it's not for yours to be kept. It's all about finding the ways that you can love your own self. And we just talked about the self-love, because it has to start from you before it goes anywhere else. And that's probably one of the most important lessons in life, is learning to do for yourself first before you do for others. Thank you so much again, Dallas, for joining us today. on another great session of Let's Get Real, and for coming on and sharing this incredibly and important message. We look
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Anybody want to get in touch with Dallas, look down below our in our session there were the information, and there's a link to contact him, as well as both of us as well. So take care and make
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you very much.